Okay, let's unpack this. So picture this. An ordinary summer day, Tokyo's Haneda Airport, July 1954.
Uh-huh. The usual hustle and bustle.
Exactly. Planes coming in, people getting off. Then this one guy steps off a flight, looks sharp, well-dressed, speaks fluent French, fluent Japanese.
And a European accent, apparently.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems totally unremarkable at first glance.
Yeah.
But hang on, because what happened next? Well, it created this ripple of confusion that we're still talking about today.
Yeah, the really strange part starts right at customs. He hands over his passport, and it looks official, full of visas, stamps, the whole deal. But the country it says it's from, Tord.
Toward. And that's the kicker, isn't it? A country that just wasn't on any map, nowhere in the history book.
Exactly. So the customs guys, you can imagine, they're just completely stumped, at a total loss.
Right. And that's our starting point for this deep dive.
Yeah.
What we want to do for you listening is really get into the nitty-gritty of this bizarre event. Look at the evidence, what there is of it, and explore these really unsettling theories that popped up around it. Because this, it goes beyond just a simple mystery, doesn't it? It kind of pokes at how we even define reality.
It really does. And thinking about those first documents, the passport, it's wild how legitimate they seemed.
Totally.
This wasn't some, cheap fake. The paper, the printing, the seals, watermarks, everything looked right. Even under the equipment they had back then, no obvious red flags.
And the visas, that's where it gets even weirder, I think.
Right.
Well, this passport, it had stamps, right? Entry, exit, France, Spain, Germany. And get this, 2 previous entry stamps for Japan over the last 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
And all those stamps, they apparently match the exact styles and dates used by customs in those countries at that specific time. Everything looked totally correct.
But the issuing country,
Toward.
still Tord. That's the impossible bit. It just didn't exist.
And the man's reaction when they told him this,
yeah.
it wasn't what you'd expect from someone caught, lying or forging. No, not at all. Reports say he was confident, polite at first, probably thought it was just some bureaucratic mix-up.
Right. Just a mistake.
But then he apparently got pretty agitated when they couldn't find Tord on their maps. Try putting yourself in his shoes for a second. He points to the map, right where Andorra is, between France and Spain. But he doesn't say Andorra. He insists Tord has been right there for 1,000 years.
1,000 years. I mean, that alone speaks volumes about his perception or maybe his reality. It really makes you question, well, what is shared reality?
Exactly. And it wasn't just the passport causing confusion. He had other stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
A driver's license from Tord, business papers, even a checkbook, all of Tord printed on them, and some kind of symbol or insignia nobody recognized.
An entire paper trail from a phantom country.
And wait, it gets even stranger. His wallet, full of real money. French francs, Spanish pesetas, German marks, all legit currency circulating back then.
Okay, so the money was real.
Yeah. But then the checkbook, from a bank they couldn't find anywhere. But the checks themselves, the paper quality, the ink, the printing, all looked like genuine European bank checks of the era.
So authentic-looking checks from a non-existent bank.
Seems like it. And there was also a business card,
Ah, the business card.
printed in perfect Japanese, for a company that actually existed in Tokyo,
Okay, finally, something verifiable.
you'd think. But when the authorities called the company, nope, never heard of him. No record he ever worked there.
Wow. So every single piece of evidence pointed to this place, Tord, that just wasn't there. It's this consistent, detailed inconsistency that makes it so fascinating.
So, faced with all this, what were the authorities thinking? I mean, the obvious explanations come to mind first, right?
Sure, mistake. Forgery. Maybe he's some kind of spy or criminal trying a really elaborate deception.
But those explanations started to fall apart pretty quickly, didn't they?
They did, the forgery idea especially. Experts looked at the documents and, like we said, no obvious flaws.
And the spelling, Tord, was the same everywhere.
Right.
Consistent.
Exactly. Consistently spelled, consistently non-existent. Plus, the visa dates, the signatures, they all lined up with real historical records. It just wasn't like a typical forgery job. It was too perfect in its wrongness, if that makes sense.
It does. So they try to check his story.
Right. Call the company in Tokyo. He claimed to be visiting real company, but no connection to him.
Try to find the company he supposedly worked for back in Tord.
Of course, doesn't exist. Every single lead just fizzled out. It's like his entire backstory evaporated the moment they looked closely.
And they had him checked out medically, too, right? To make sure he wasn't delusional or something?
Yeah, standard procedure, I guess. They brought in a doctor during the questioning.
And the verdict?
Sane, coherent, but genuinely baffled and confused that nobody knew his country. He seemed calm, even when they were basically accusing him of fraud. Like, he truly believed his reality was the right one.
There's even that little detail, that story about him talking to a guard, right?
Oh, yeah, while they were taking him to the hotel room for the night.
He apparently mentioned he'd been to Tokyo lots of times before, no problems. Couldn't figure out why this trip was suddenly such a big deal.
That casual comment just adds another layer of weirdness, doesn't it? Like, for him, this was routine until it suddenly wasn't.
And that brings us to the most baffling part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
The vanishing act.
Right. So while they're trying to figure this all out, they put him up in a hotel near the airport, under guard.
And not just casually guarded. We're talking 2 guards right outside his door all night.
Plus, another officer apparently watching the hallway. And the room itself, no balcony, no fire escape, window locked, couldn't be opened from the inside. Pretty secure.
As secure as you could make it, basically. You'd think the only way out was through that guarded door.
Logically, yes. But while the impossible happened, the guards outside his door heard nothing. Absolutely zero.
No struggle, no door opening, no footsteps, nothing.
Nothing. Then officials come back in the morning, room's empty, he's just gone.
Completely gone, like poof.
Poof seems about right. And what's really mind-bending is that everything was gone.
What do you mean, everything?
All his belongings, the passport, the weird currency, the torn checkbook, the business cards, all vanished with him. The bed looked like it had been slept in, but no sign of forced entry, no broken locks, nothing, just an empty room.
As if he'd never really been there, almost.
Oh.
It's if they knew he had.
Exactly. Utterly baffling.
I can only imagine the panic that set in.
Oh, absolutely. A frantic search of the hotel turned up nothing. They alerted airport security, set up roadblocks, police searched the area.
But nothing.
Zilch. The man from Tord had vanished without a trace.
So, what happens after something like that? Officially?
Well, officially, silence. No public statement was ever made. Internally, though, reports started circulating, describing the case using words like deeply troubling, unprecedented.
Sounds about right.
Confidentiality orders were slapped on everyone involved. And it seems a quiet decision was made to basically scrub his existence from the official records, like pretend it never happened.
But these things have a way of leaking out, don't they?
They often do. Over the years, anonymous stories started to surface. People who were supposedly there that night mentioned weird little things.
Like what?
A strange feeling of disorientation in the hotel, minor electrical glitches, radio static, lights flickering oddly. Stuff easily dismissed at the time, maybe, but in hindsight.
It starts to look like part of a bigger, stranger picture.
Precisely. And then you get into the alleged leaked documents, years later. Documents that supposedly backed up the original bizarre story.
Like that supposed Ministry of Foreign Affairs report.
Yeah, the one mentioning an encounter with unrecognized national entity. Pretty formal language for something so strange.
And wasn't there talk of an internal memo mentioning like a meeting with some foreign intelligence agency?
That's another alleged leak, supposedly confirming how weird the whole thing was, the impossibility of the disappearance, and even suggesting, they needed to study this kind of phenomenon more.
Study it.
Well, this leads to maybe the wildest part. The claim they discreetly consulted university scientists. Physicists, maybe.
And what did they supposedly say?
Their reported conclusions were, well, pretty out there, talking about things like localized dimensional instability.
Okay, translate that for us mortals.
Basically like a tiny temporary rip in the fabric of reality itself. Or another idea, a brief rupture between parallel realities, suggesting maybe there are other universes bumping up against ours.
So the idea is,
Yeah.
A crack opened up, he slipped through from somewhere else, stayed for a bit.
And then the crack closed, snapping him and all his Tord stuff back to wherever he came from, taking all traces with him.
Wow, that's a leap.
It's a huge leap. But then you hear these unconfirmed reports about weird energy readings at the airport while he was detained, fluctuations they couldn't explain.
Which would kind of fit with the Terran reality idea, I guess.
It feeds into that narrative, yeah. And it definitely fueled the fear that maybe this wasn't just a one-off freak event.
Which could explain the alleged cover-up, right? If you think something that fundamental just happened.
Exactly. Scrubbing the records, reassigning people. It suddenly makes a kind of chilling sense if you're trying to prevent mass panic about the nature of reality itself.
Okay, so stepping back, we've got these different layers of explanation. There's the more grounded theory.
Right, the super sophisticated forgery or spy operation. But like you said, how does that explain him vanishing from a locked room? And the electrical weirdness?
Doesn't really fit, does it?
Yeah.
So then you have the more exotic idea, the parallel Earth theory.
Which is definitely compelling. The idea he's from a reality almost identical to ours, but
That's
just slightly different. Different history, different countries, like Torrid existing where we have Andorra.
That would explain why his documents seem so real, but reference things that don't exist here.
It's an elegant, if mind-bending, explanation. And it gets more intriguing when you hear about other scattered reports over the years of similarly strange travelers or unexplained disappearances globally. Unverified mostly, but still.
Makes you wonder.
It does. And then there's the darker spin on it.
Darker how?
The idea that he wasn't just lost. Maybe he was a scout. Or an unintentional sign of a bigger breach between realities starting to happen.
Like a warning sign.
Potentially. And in that view, the cover-up wasn't just about panic. It was about trying to contain something potentially huge and unknown.
It's amazing how this one incident, officially unacknowledged, has kind of burrowed its way into different circles.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this underground case study in theoretical physics, extra-dimensional theory. And for conspiracy theorists, it's practically Exhibit A.
And just in popular culture, it's become this modern urban legend, hasn't it? A ghost story for the 20th century.
Definitely. It taps into that feeling that maybe reality isn't as solid as we think. You even see people connecting it to things like the Mandela effect.
Right, those shared false memories.
Yeah.
Are they glitches in our brains or glitches in reality itself?
Who knows? But the Torrid story feeds into that uncertainty, and that persistent trickle of similar strange reports worldwide just keeps the question alive. It really makes you think about the boundaries we take for granted.
National borders, sure, but also the borders of physics, of existence itself. Are they really as impermeable as we assume?
Which brings us back full circle, doesn't it? To this man arriving at an airport perfectly confident about who he was and where he was from.
Only to find out that in this world, his home simply never existed.
So the big question we have to leave you, the listener, with is, what do you actually think happened here? Who was the man from Torrid?
Was he just a lost traveler from somewhere else? A glitch in the Matrix? Or was his arrival and disappearance hinting at something
Yeah.
bigger? Something maybe unsettling?
And maybe the even bigger question, if reality did slip like that once, how would we even know if it's happening again? Right now.
Yeah. Think about what that means for how you see the world, the things you assume are solid fact. And maybe, just maybe, ponder this final thought. Could there be other Torrids out there?
Other realities brushing against ours, unnoticed. Or maybe, deliberately hidden, what other lines that we think are absolute might actually be blurry or even crossable.